So welcome to meditation in the last week, the fourth and last week of Advent, and only a few days till Christmas. Christmas, that great feast, but one which perhaps only became really popularized in about the 13th century with St. Francis. And Francis's theology kind of shifted the emphasis from being entirely on Christ's death on the cross, because Francis believed that God loved us from the beginning and showed this love by becoming incarnate in Jesus. And so Christmas became far more important than it had before that. And that focus on love is our theme for today, because the fourth Advent candle traditionally symbolizes love. And so as we come into this place, thinking of Advent as arrival from the Latin, a coming, an arrival for which we await, we bring ourselves into a relaxed position, perhaps a position that we might associate with anticipation. Let's go through our usual ritual of breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, and repeating that just to settle us. And now go through a check-in of the body, noticing where we're sitting or lying, feeling the points of connection, feet on the floor, hands on the lap, perhaps back against the chair. Just check yourself in. Take in the whole of the body. The physical, perhaps notice the state of mind internally. The mind. And the heart, setting our intention in the heart to make use of this time, and to make use perhaps of the rest of Advent, and perhaps further ahead an intention to be joyful at Christmas and to extend love to all. But for now, come back to our routine of using the breath to relax. And so focus the attention on that breath. Consciously deepen the breath by counting to 4 on the in-breath. Hold for 2, breathe out for 5 through the mouth, and hold again for 2. And while you're breathing, just keep an eye open or notice whether thoughts are intruding, taking your attention away, Just keep alert to that, and if that happens, just gently bring the attention back to the breath, and in doing so those thoughts will just slip away and settle. Once that pattern of breathing is established, just a check-in as well on the whole body, noticing and giving thanks for different parts. Perhaps if you've been walking today, giving thanks for the legs and the feet. Or you've been making things, give thanks for the hands and the fingers. And just look at them. If you've been engaged in conversation, be thankful for the senses of hearing and speaking, and recall to mind any highlights of the day, of meetings with others, of connections made. And if there's anything else from the day or the weekend, as we cast our mind back, any particular points of joyfulness, anything particular to be recalled and to be grateful for. And with the breath, just return to any such moments. Touch on the senses that those engendered. And yes, be grateful again. And as we continue to breathe gently but deeply, to be relaxed, some more thoughts on as we come to the end of Advent. Because the waiting, the arrival, preparing for Christmas is not simply waiting now for Jesus to be born. That already happened 2,000 years ago, of course. We're forever welcoming the universal Christ that is forever being born in the human soul. And another Franciscan, a modern day Franciscan, Ilia Delio, invites us to consider Advent as a time to wake up to God's incarnate presence. She says, if God has already come to us, what are we waiting for? If God had already become incarnate in Jesus, What are we waiting for? She says we're called to awaken to what's already in our midst. Advent, she says, is a coming to a new consciousness of God, already loving us into something new, into something more whole, that we're not, in a sense, waiting for what's not there. We're, in a sense, to be attending to what's already there. To what's already there. Another famous theologian, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, a Jesuit, he viewed love as the attraction of all things toward all things. And this is not just this idea of the centrality of love. Is there through the ages on all great spiritual teachers and indeed social reformers. All of these have expanded the idea of the circle of who counts as one of us and therefore is worthy of our care and concern. A common vision of our interconnectedness and interdependence. And as we wait, or as we awaken to what's already here, perhaps we look also to the future. Richard Rohr suggests that we're not just connected to the present and the past, but also to a future good, moving closer to something brighter, better, more beautiful. Bishop Richard Harries believes that all real beauty, no matter what its form, carries a divine radiance. He writes, the material and the immaterial, the visible and the invisible, the physical and the spiritual, interpenetrate one another. The physical world becomes radiant with eternity. This means that all everyday experiences have a deeply sacramental character. So being awake to what's already there, being awake to our interconnectedness, but being awake to what is to come, a future good, despite what's going on in the world today, a larger picture, moving to something brighter, better, more beautiful. Finally, Ilia Delio again says the other part, I think, is that we can think of Advent as God waiting for us to wake up. As if we're asleep in the manger, not Jesus. Jesus is alive in our midst. What if we're in the manger and God is already awakened in our midst and we're so fallen asleep, we're so unconsciously asleep that God is sort of looking for someone to get up and help bring the gifts into the world? So I think that's a useful challenge to us. For us not to be just passively waiting, but to wake up and to do God's work, Let's awaken, she says, to what God is doing in us and what God is seeking to become in us. Waiting for someone, for us to get up and help bring the gifts into the world. And so we move to our longer silence. Perhaps using some of those ideas, the universal nature of love, love as the attraction of all things, interconnected, interdependent, moving to a future good, or the need for us to wake up. We go with music from Salt of the Sound.
Shine so bright for you, to reflect that light. Yes, I shine so bright for you. just fades away. Oh, it fades away till it's gone.
So we gently come out of our silence. Bringing ourselves back to this space.
Will that light shine in the darkness once again?
The light shining in the darkness.
When I see it, I let it in. You be the sunlight, and I'll be the moon to reflect your light. Yes, I shine so bright for you. To reflect that light. Yes, I shine so bright for you.
And with that idea of reflecting the light, the interplay of the sunlight, the moonlight, some closing words from a member of the Centre for Action and Contemplation that brings some of our thoughts today together. Christ abides in us. Everything that is sustained in the creative, eternal, loving power of Christ. This is true of all people, all matter, all emptiness, and darkness too. God actively pours it all forth and experiences creation as us, in us, and through us. That's why these moments are so full of joy. And so moving the last few days before Christmas, wishing everybody a very happy Christmas. Amen.